We're quoting Migos. We're securing the border. We're trashing Donald Trump for only caring about himself. This is politics, Will.
So, Tim, I'm really, really confused. Is this what it sounds like to have a messenger who actually knows how to deliver a message?
It does.
Because I haven't heard this for at least a year, a couple of years.
8, maybe. All right, we are back. Fan favorite, Will Saletan. So many ponies out there, we don't even need you to find the pony in the pile of shit out there right now. I mean, terrorists are getting killed. Kamala momentum, the coconut moment. We're drowning in ponies. We're drowning in them.
We got to work on the metaphor. We're not drowning in the pony. But, it's been like a whole pony week. It's been pony month.
Yeah, pink pony month. All right, I want to talk about Harris. Last night, she was in Atlanta. Over on YouTube, I analyzed her immigration ad, which was just everything we've been asking for, talking about her commitment to securing the border while blaming Trump for killing that border bill. Also threw in a little shot about how she likes to arrest gang members while Trump is trying to evade jail. I like that contrast quite a bit. But let's listen together to Harris last night in Atlanta talking about immigration.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
You a big Migos fan, Will?
Administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades. Some of the most conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill. Even the Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass. But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down. Right. He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself. And when I am president, I will work to actually solve the problem. So here is my pledge to you.
So nice.
As president, I will bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump killed, and I will sign it into law and show Donald Trump what real leadership looks like.
We're quoting Migos. We're securing the border. We're trashing Donald Trump for only caring about himself. This is politics, Will. This is politics.
So Tim, I'm really, really confused. I'm really confused to have, is this what it sounds like to have a messenger who actually knows how to deliver a message? Because I haven't heard this for at least a year, a couple of years.
8, maybe.
So first of all, can I take a victory lap for this? Not many people know this. You folks out there, Tim and I, pundits, campaigns listen to everything we say, and they do exactly what we write, what we tell them on our podcast. And we've been telling Kamala, get out in front, get on the Langford immigration bill, because this is your weakest issue. Get out there and own it, claim it, say you're gonna sign it, and hit Trump for having killed it, right? And that's exactly what she's doing. She totally listened to us. So of course she's done the right thing here. This is a great comeback for her, and it is her toughest issue. Because not only is she answering the question about herself, which is, I've been a prosecutor, I've worked on this issue, I am trying to do the right thing, although it's a difficult issue. She's also hitting Trump, and she's hitting him where it hurts, which is this larger theme that she gets to there when she says he only cares about himself. He deliberately killed this bill. This may be a Republican issue, immigration, but Donald Trump doesn't care about solving any of the issues, not crime, not immigration. He only cares about winning. And that's why he killed a bill that would have solved the issue or done something to help solve the issue in order to help himself get elected. And that is going to resonate because it does connect with the real central flaw of Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly right. It addresses the issue. Look, you're not going to win everybody over. People whose immigration's their number one issue aren't going to vote for Kamala Harris, but you are mitigating your weakness. But it also is layering up into that key message. The Biden team previewed that. That's what they said the campaign message was going to be. We care about you. He cares about himself. And just was never executed. That is executed. Here's another thing I like about it. I think Kamala wants to win. She can smell it. She can smell victory. There are these moments where it's like, what could you do on immigration? You could try to appease all the stakeholders in the coalition. You could feel like you need to be very defensive about the record, about what was happening in 2022. Here's somebody from the left. Here's a comment by one of the lefties who's upset about this. This is terrible. You're raising the salience of your worst issue, muddling the threat you claim to believe Trump represents, tethering yourself to an objective, awful policy package. No, actually, she's saying I don't need to listen to the activist lefty whiners. Maybe when I get in there, sure. If there are ways to make the bill better, sure. Policy wise, sure. But when you're trying to win a campaign, this seems like the way to do it.
Yeah, look, to folks on the left about immigration, look, this is a real problem. This is not like a fake thing where you need to triangulate to score some points about like school uniform. This is not school uniforms. This is a real thing. Like the border is like completely out of 90s. Control.
It's such a 90s throwback, school uniforms. No, it's great, though. I love it, though. That's great. You're right. It is not that. It's a real problem.
There are these little phony Dick Morris issues. That's another callback to the 90s, right? Yeah. Where you're just like, it's a symbolic thing. This is a real thing. And wake up, people, because in other Western democracies, immigration has become a huge issue helping the right. And it's helping the right because like there is a giant international business now in trafficking people across borders because we have a great deal. Come to the United States. It's a great place to work. We have a great economy. And we have to like manage immigration. And if the Democrats don't do it, the right will. And so she's got to take this issue away from him. She's got to show that she is serious about controlling it. So I just think the left is wrong. And even if you don't agree with me about that, the overriding priority is to keep this authoritarian out of the White House. And she needs to do exactly what she's doing. Amen.
There was one other thing that made me smell out that she's feeling herself. She's feeling the victory. She has her eyes on the prize. There was one word that was not mentioned, kind of a proper noun. Was a name that wasn't mentioned in the speech yesterday in Atlanta, 20-minute speech. You know what it was? Wasn't LeBron James. Was there another name you could think of that might not have been mentioned?
Tell me.
Joe Biden.
Oh, wow. Joe Biden.
Not even mentioned in the speech. And you know what? It's because we're not going back. Well, we're not going back. And my mother had this line I've been meaning to use on this podcast. She always would say to us as kids at the end of vacation, she'd say, when it's over, it's over. All right, you're going back. It's time to go back to life. Sometimes you have moments in life for things, but when they're over, and you just have to embrace it and accept it. And for Kamala, like the Biden/Harris administration, when it's over, it's over. It's time to move forward to a future of a Harris/whoever administration. And that is smart politics. Might hurt somebody's feelings a little bit, but I also saw the convention lineup has leaked. And, not the full convention lineup, but the big names. President Biden, day one. Again, exactly right. Could have had him on the last day and opening for Kamala, and maybe he'll come out briefly, but his speech, day one. It's like, then we're moving forward. Right? I mean, like, is this not just, it's a little ruthless, but it's ruthless in the way that you want. That's like, the stakes are high. We want to fucking win. If that means we got to tack to the center on immigration and release some baggage from the last administration, then we're going to do that.
Right. But the Biden thing, Tim, she's got to do this. She's got to be the alpha. She is being the alpha. Look, right. You and I are sitting here talking about the strategy of it, where she positions herself. But for people who did not see what she did in Atlanta and what she's done at all her events since Biden dropped out, what really comes across is her poise. I mean, she's been the number two. And if you and I think back over previous vice presidents, I cannot think of one who emerged so quickly from the shadow of her boss or his boss in those cases with this kind of poise and confidence. She's projecting alpha. And that's absolutely essential, because you and I can sit here and talk all we want about issues, but a lot of people look at that person and we're kind of chimps. That's what we are. We're like, are you ready to take over the tribe here? And she's showing that she has that. She's showing she is the number one.
Think about how this problem dogged H.W. Bush and Gore, for example. And think about Gore I feel like I was just a nerdy college kid or high school kid following this stuff. But I even remember kind of this discussion of, should he separate from him or should he embrace him? And like that stuff like held over the whole campaign, and she seems to have already turned the page on that in 9 days. Speaking of alpha, I'll listen to one more clip from Atlanta.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
Crowd seemed to like that one.
Yeah. Again, I love this. So back to the alpha theme.
Yeah.
So first of all, for her purposes, it's really important that she did this because she is a woman. And trust me, I've been looking at focus groups for the last couple of weeks. There is a lot of anxiety about whether a woman is, quote, sort of up to the job. And there's a stereotype about women that they're not strong. This woman is projecting strength. She is projecting that she is in charge and she is not afraid of anyone, certainly not afraid of Trump. But she's also connecting to Trump's weakness because he's a fake alpha, right? And we all saw when Trump was in Helsinki what he does when he's next to a real alpha. He just bowed down to Vladimir Putin. And Kamala Harris is basically saying to him, I am a real alpha. And she's betting that in the face of a real alpha, he is going to chicken out. And the fact that he has pulled out, at least so far, from debating her, just lends more credence to that case. So if she can add the sort of I'm more of an alpha than he is to the issue set that she has, I think that's a winning combination.
This is why he has to debate her, right? This is why there's no way he actually ducks it, right?
I think so. If he thinks it's going to hurt him, he won't do it because that's his overriding objective.
We also have VP pick imminent. They've announced that they're planning a joint campaign swing next week. Kamala Harris and her vice presidential selection. So we know it's going to be coming sometime between now and I guess Tuesday of next week. There's an Axios report out this morning, which maybe we can take or leave. That Wall Street, there's some circulation among the Harris donors that if you are work in financial services, you should be donating now because there's a law that bars you from donating to a sitting governor, a corruption law. Maybe that's just a CYA thing. Maybe that's some inside info, insider trading, if you will. There's been increased buzz around Bashir potentially online, and of course around Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. The swing kicks off in Philadelphia, so you can take that for what it's worth. Any thoughts about the imminent VP choice?
No, I'm a hardcore Mayor Pete fan. I'm bracing myself to lose this one just because there's these governors, and the hard thing for her, Tim, is she's got to make this decision so fast in a context that may change. Does she need Pennsylvania's electoral votes bad enough that Shapiro has it in the bag? That's question number one. Yeah, she may make that bet and later regret it, that she could have chosen based on other criteria. So I don't envy her this choice.
Yeah, I don't either. I think if we're reading things correctly, that these guys, that Kamala Harris and her team feel like they're in it to win it. They're smelling the White House. They are pivoting on some key issues to the center. They're doing what needs to be done about turning the page from President Biden. To me, that ethos leads you to a Shapiro pick, right? Because it's like, if we're trying to maximize our chances. Nobody can see the future. Nobody can see a crystal ball, but it's just like, you have in a key state, you have a sitting governor with a 61% approval rating. To me, that feels like where they're going, but I wouldn't bet my life on it or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. And hats off, by the way, to the Tim Walz fan club. I don't know how these guys managed to generate a boomlet for the governor of Minnesota, a state that Democrats pretty much have in the bag. But hey, congratulations.
The vibe of somebody that looks like, he can fix a carburetor. There's something to be said for that. Josh Shapiro doesn't look like he can fix a carburetor. So there is something to be said for that with Tim Walz. I want to talk about a recent article you wrote that was very Saletanian, which was titled, "Here Are the Trump Threats That Should Actually Scare You." And it was, a slight dismissal of some of these like social media fad, pearl clutching things where Trump says something and he's kind of joking, kind of not joking. And you instead said, let's keep our eye on the ball and focus on the real threats here. So why don't you run through what you had in mind?
Okay, so there's two parts to this. There's the part everybody hates, and then there's the part that everybody agrees with. And let's
do the part everybody hates first. Let's get that out of the way.
The part everybody hates is, look, every once in a while, those of us in the anti-Trump coalition hear Donald Trump say something, and we're like, holy shit, he's like threatening to end democracy again, right? And like sometimes we're just wrong. This wasn't one of those moments. Look, there's been hundreds of these statements from Trump. Can we please not seize on the wrong ones? So here's the one that's got me. It's the one he was at Turning Point, what was it, Friday? And he said, Christians, you won't have to vote again if you vote this time, right? And people took this as he's saying there won't be any more elections because he'll end them because he's a dictator.
He said this several times.
Several times. And he said this, and then on Laura Ingraham on Monday, he repeated it. Can I just quote the version from Laura Ingraham? Okay, just so to make my... Listen to this and tell me whether he is saying that elections are going to end or whether he is saying, if you vote for me, I will solve the country's problems so you won't need to come out and vote again. He says, don't worry about the future. You have to vote on November 5th. After that, you don't have to worry about voting anymore. I don't care because the country will be fixed and we won't even need your vote anymore. To me, it's like an open and shut case. He's saying, I will solve these problems, you Christians who support me, so you can go back to not voting like, as he says, they haven't been in the past. He's talking to his own supporters, right? He's saying
that also has its own problems, like logical problems, such as you were already president once. So why didn't that work the first time? If you can fix everything in 4 years, what happened? What happened the first time through? But anyway.
But folks, to everybody who understands what a threat Trump is, keep your eye on the ball. He is a narcissist. What he is saying here is, I do not care what happens to this country after I get elected. All I care about is me. Come out and vote for me. You don't have to vote ever again. It is his narcissism. It is not a threat to democracy. The other half of what I was saying in the piece is there's all this really bad shit that Trump is saying, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about this thing instead. So in that same speech to Turning Point, he said, as soon as I take the oath of office, I will stop the Biden-Harris administration's weaponization of law enforcement against Americans of faith and against, frankly, their political opponent, singular, me, him. He's saying as soon as he takes the oath of office, he is going to end the prosecutions of himself. He's going to tell the Justice Department to drop those cases. He also said he's going to, get the January 6th perps out of jail. He's going to pardon them. Like, that is the threat. Okay. He is an authoritarian threat. Let's talk about that stuff and not the one we're misinterpreting.
Concur. Anything other Project 2025 threats from kind of the wise will perspective? What are things that are people? There's plenty that people are hair on fire about, but what piques your interest the most
about the Project 2025 stuff? I mean, I just think it's hilarious that the Trump campaign. So they finally canned the guy who, or I don't, how are we supposed to say this? He voluntarily left, the guy at Heritage who did Project 2025. And the Trump campaign puts out a statement about this, right? Saying two things. Number one, we had nothing to do with Project 2025. We have no influence over these people. And then the other thing that they said was, trying to find it, they said basically, this is from Susie Wiles and Crystal. They said, also, let this be a warning, basically, to anyone who claims to represent our campaign. Meaning, we did this. We had nothing to do with this. We have no responsibility. And we made sure this guy got canned, which means they own it, which means they controlled this the whole freaking time.
Yeah. Nice try, Chris and Susie. But unfortunately, you chose a VP who wrote the foreword to Kevin Roberts' book about Project 2025. Like literally, J.D. Vance, like Kevin Roberts is the head of Heritage Foundation, the mastermind behind Project 2025, has a new book coming out. Who wrote the foreword? J.D. Vance. Okay, so you can't do this. All right, it's not working. We're going to end with people on bad news because we can't just be too happy. But really quick, any quick thoughts on the uptick in attacks from Israel? I mean, they've now carried out a successful, it seems like, attack both in Tehran and in Lebanon, which has its own potential risks, of course, of escalation. But on the other side of the ledger, leaders of both Hamas and Hezbollah taken out, which seems like unadulterated good news. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Okay, Tim, I get to be the lib on this one.
Please. Okay, great. Not unadulterated good news.
Not unadulterated good news from my point of view. So first of all, the guy that they killed was the political guy in Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh. He's the guy who was actually like in negotiating about the ceasefire and the hostage release and all that stuff. So I'd be happier if they killed the military guy. I mean, we still don't know whether they got.
Can't we kill all of them?
I know it's like a Republican thing. We'll just kill that guy and that guy and that guy. But Tim, this is like Al Qaeda. This is like Al Qaeda number 3. We keep killing the guy, and then there's always another one. It's been this way with Hamas. They killed the Sheikh back 20 years ago. Yeah. They keep killing Hamas guys, and we're not going to kill our way out of the problem.
Okay.
But to me, the $1 million question is, what does Israel want? Did Israel do this because they want to reestablish deterrence because the Hezbollah just killed a bunch of Israelis in the north, right? Yep. We're sending a message to Iran, get your proxies out of here. Did they do it because they want to score a big win so Netanyahu can say, we killed the Hamas guy, we're getting out of Gaza? That would be great, in my opinion. The third option is the scary one, which is that they need to keep killing people because the Israeli right-wing coalition, Netanyahu's coalition, needs to keep some kind of war going or they're going to fall. The government's going to fall. They need to keep the state of war. That's the one I'm worried about. I hope that Israel will say, we got the biggest of the bad guys. Now let's cut a deal and get out.
All right. I appreciate your check on my exuberance there. Okay. And to end with the other sort of sad news with all this progress on the democracy side, our friend of the pod, Stephen Richer, there's primary in Arizona last night. A couple results of note. Kari Lake won the Senate primary against Mark Lamb, who's a sheriff who really wouldn't have been much better, but maybe just who would have had the same policies as Kari, but is not as just crazy, palpably crazy. And so probably good news for the DSCC there and for Ruben Gallego in the Senate race. On the bad news side, in a congressional seat, Abe Hamadeh won. Though there's kind of like an Iran-Iraq war situation there between Abe Hamadeh and Blake Masters, both election deniers who had lost in the last cycle. In some ways, Abe acted more irresponsibly in claiming that it was stolen from him than Blake did. So I guess a modest point to Blake on that. On the other hand, Blake ran probably the most disgusting racist campaign that I've ever seen against Abe. Maybe not ever seen, but an extremely blatantly racist ad, like with pictures of Abe trying to make him into a terrorist because his last name is Hamadeh. So it was kind of like an a pox on both your houses situation, but Abe Hamadeh wins. Bad news. Blake Masters loses. Good news. And then the saddest news is our friend Stephen Richer, the recorder, who just acted so honorably in the face of disgusting, vile threats from Kari Lake, from her supporters, about their imagined election fraud. He was primaried he's up for re-election for recorder, was primaried from the right and lost his primary last night. So cheers to Stephen for being a great American. And it's unfortunate for the state of our politics that people are still getting run out of office for simply doing the right thing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Will.
Yeah, it's just sad. I mean, what you've just captured is two perfect bookends of what's wrong with the Republican Party. You got these whack jobs. So you got like two deniers running against each other in the race, in the congressional race. You got Carrie Lake winning her primary. So what's happened is the Republican Party has normalized the election denial. There's no price to be paid in the party. And meanwhile, they've excommunicated, or you're the Catholic, right? So what's the word? Anathematized. They've anathematized telling the truth about elections, which is what Stephen Richer did. That is no longer acceptable in the Republican Party.
Well, Stephen, as a Catholic, I absolve you. All right. You have full absolution. Now you can go out, live your life, make money, maybe run as a Democrat next time. Who knows? I don't know. Life could be better for Stephen Richer, and the water's warm over here. As former Republicans, we'll probably have him on the podcast in the coming weeks to talk about what's going on down in Arizona. We're sending him a lot of love. Thank you to Will Saletan, a man who walks it like he talks it, or talks it like he walks it, both ways. We'll be back tomorrow with another doubleheader. Thanks to Fred Trump as well. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.